We're live.
Hey, we are live.
We're doing it live. We always do it live, actually. We do always do it live.
Yeah. We do, though we haven't been doing it live for the last few weeks. I'm Lisa Senecal. I am one of the two co-hosts of LPTV's We're Speaking.
I'm Maya May. I am also one of the two co-hosts of We're Speaking. I'm wearing Argyle, my most responsible sweater, and I'm just excited to be back.
Yeah, excited to be here with you guys tonight. I'm really excited to be back live next Wednesday. We are going to be at a new time. Our old time was this time, 9 o'clock, but we're going to be moving to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that is where you're going to be able to find us every Wednesday, starting Wednesday the 26th. So we really look forward to being back with all of you, hearing from all of you again.
Yes, and that's 5 p.m. Pacific time for everybody who isn't great at math. That's me. I've had to remind myself over and over again today that it's 5 p.m. Pacific. And we know we have, y'all are all over the country. So 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern, because we want to be able to get to bed early. I don't know if that's why we're doing that, but
I'm not exactly sure, but I am all for it not ending at 10 o'clock and starting at 9. So this is great. Hopefully we'll be a little bit more cogent at 8 o'clock than we would be at 9.
Yes.
So the breakdown is also coming back next week. They are Tuesday and Thursday, also at 8 o'clock. They are shifting an hour earlier. So consistency is good. You can always find us Tuesday through Thursday on LPTV, YouTube, Lincoln Project Facebook, Twitter, and all of our past episodes are also on the Lincoln Project YouTube account. So you can stream all the old episodes there, get caught up, and then join us next week when we relaunch.
Yes. It's scrolling at the bottom of the screen too, so everybody can note that.
Fantastic. Yes. The other thing we want to have scroll at the bottom of the screen is a wonderful opportunity for everyone at the end of this week. Actually, you don't have to attend, but we'd love
it if you register. Go ahead and register. Get that out on TikTok. Get the kids to register. Everybody. Maybe you'll go. Maybe you'll roll out to Arizona. It's the Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene rally for
I don't know, raising bail or whatever it is Matt Gaetz is going to end up needing, pay for his attorney fees, or it's the America First or whatever they're calling their leap toward authoritarianism.
Rally. I mean, you can't. Can you call it America First when you're also torpedoing democracy like at every turn? Like, how could you be America First, but then also not want a commission set up for January 6th? That's what I don't get. Like, it just seems, it's wacky. They're wacky. So register.
Yeah, register, please. Everybody did this so well back during the general election when the rallies were going on. Gen Y, Gen Z, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for filling those seats. That was a phenomenal in Oklahoma. That was a phenomenal non-attended rally that former President Trump had. So if you can pull that off one more time, that sure would be fun to see. So we believe in you. Yes, we know you can do it. We have faith.
Yes. And we also have faith in our democracy. So I want to talk a little bit about, before we jump into the questions, about why we are a part of the Lincoln Project. So I'm going to ask you, Lisa, the Lincoln Project, for everybody who doesn't know you yet, because there could be people tuning in right now, why the Lincoln Project?
The Lincoln Project, because I am equally disillusioned with the Republican Party, as so many tens of millions of people are, and certainly the folks who started the Lincoln Project. When I was, I'm going to start dating myself here. Back in the day, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was a small child.
That was my dinosaur.
Yes, thank you. I believe the Republican Party was something different than it is now. I think, the blinders have come off, And I realize now I am a lifelong independent, but I did go back and forth and vote on both sides of the aisle. And there used to be principled Republicans, but the Republican Party always had this really dark undercurrent. And I had hoped that was something that was going to fade away, and the good side of the Republican Party would have become the dominant side. That's obviously not what has happened. And at this point, I am team burn it to the ground in terms of
not literally. No, she doesn't mean that literally. Just noting that to everybody who's in the chat right now, there probably is a troll in there like, see, they want to burn stuff. See, they're going to take that clip. They're going to
Antifa, Black Lives Matter. Oh my God.
They do though. Black lives do matter. Just so you know that.
Do. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
There really isn't anything salvageable, in my opinion, left of the Republican Party. They seem to have no interest in actually governing, getting anything done. I don't know why they say they represent the working people when those seem to be the people who are most effectively getting the shaft in all of their policies. So, I was thrilled to be able to work during the general election toward Biden winning, and thank God he did. That's
we think,
just
right?
Beginning.
The results came in, right? He won the election because there's so many people who
I don't know
seem to be confused by that.
There might be bamboo in the ballots, and until we find out whether or not panda bears eat our ballots, we're not going to know whether or not we had a legitimate election, I suppose, is what we now have going on. But Maya, why are you here? Why did you want to become involved with the Lincoln Project and with our show We're Speaking?
Yes, thank you for asking. As I show off our gear, which you can get at the gear store to help support everything that we're doing. So my background is stand-up comedy. So it's probably like, why would a comedian be? Well, but the Lincoln Project is funny. Everybody who works for Lincoln Project is actually very hilarious. My undergrad is in political science, however, and I originally wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. I was going to change the world, etc. Then I saw that all my lawyer friends were sad. They were really sad. And I was like, maybe not. And then what I realized is part of changing. So, and then I lived abroad for 8 years, came back, and a huge part of changing anything is changing people's hearts and minds, but you have to change hearts before you change policy. And so comedy is an amazing way to access issues that may be more challenging to people. And so my comedy has always been about race, class, gender, but also in a way that brings people together. Like I do a lot of college shows. I go to small towns. I go to conservative schools. And at the end of the day, like everybody wants the same thing, to feel empowered and to feel like they have agency in their life. And so that to me is incredibly important. And I think using comedy, leveraging comedy to be able to talk about these issues in a way that doesn't make us feel disempowered is super, super important. And especially right now. And there's all sorts of sciencey stuff about how if you laugh when you hear something, it resonates, you incorporate it more into your brain, your neural pathways, all sorts of stuff that I love to read about. So comedy will save democracy is how I sum that up, which I actually want to know. Comedy is not saving democracy.
What's that?
I the look on your face, like, maybe.
No. I was thinking about all the different times in our past episodes, and part of what we're building into the second season of the show is exactly what you're talking about. That we talk about a lot of really difficult, troubling, painful stuff. And, we're all talking about it because we're all paying attention to what's going on in the country politically and socially. And comedy is an outlet. It's that pressure valve that gives us an opportunity to talk about the difficult stuff and then take a breath and be able to laugh a little, because it's really important that we all stay sane, because there are enough people on the other side who are already crazy. And so, we've got to keep it together and make sure we keep the democracy together.
Yeah. And to that point, because they have so much fervor on their side and they're so riled up with anger and fear, I think it's really important that we do the opposite, because like a leader can control with fear, but a leader can also inspire with hope. And so a lot of our show is like tackling these very challenging issues, but leaving you with the sense that you actually have power to affect change at a local level, in your own home with your friends and family. And so the idea is that we're bringing people across the divide and making it possible to have these conversations with each other, because if we don't have these conversations with each other, like we already see where that's headed. So this is us trying to like wrangle everybody in and get engaged without feeling enraged is kind of my thing, or use that rage and change it into positive action, which we'll talk about that on the show too. And we are going to have a lot of fun segments as well for everybody to engage in. So we're super excited about our first show, which is, again, when is our first show?
Our first show is Wednesday, May 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm not going to try to do the Central and Mountain Time because I'll get it wrong, but y'all know what time that is. So
for you,
yeah.
Mountain Time's very confusing. I've always been like, who's on Mountain Time? I think Arizona's on Mountain Time, actually, the rally. So make sure you don't show up at the rally at the not right time.
If you actually want to show up at
yes.
all, which you don't need to be able to register. So,
but maybe you want to register your whole family. I don't know. Maybe you do.
Yes. I had someone was telling me today that some of their pets had some new email addresses today. Everybody can get in on the fun of the Gates Green rally because. Yeah. Ain't nothing.
Did you say Gang Green
about that?
You said yes, the Gang Green rally? Yes. Is that we're renaming it? It's the
we can just cut
Gang
it
Green
off.
Cut it off before it infects the rest of the country. Questions? Y'all are here because you had questions and you want us to answer them. So should we hop into the Q&A part? Do we want to go over some of these questions?
Yeah, let's jump right into. I'm going to scroll through here. We had someone who had a question about the Franklin Project at Sobel Promotions, and I'm throwing off the folks in the behind the scenes here because that was not the first question you were going to. But Maya, you talking about being able to have civil discussions and all of us having these really important conversations is the perfect segue to talk about the Franklin Project. And so at Sobel Promotions wrote, can you tell us more about the Franklin Project?
Yeah, so this to me is, so first of all, the Franklin Project is a nonpartisan coalition that is built around the idea that civic engagement, civil discourse, these are all things that we need to learn. Like we have to educate ourselves to be a part of an informed democracy and to have a better understanding of how autocratic regimes form, because quite frankly, this is not something that most of us studied in school. I know I probably didn't. Even if I did, I don't remember. And so the Franklin Project is really about re-educating people. And so there's a couple of executive directors who are completely, and I think there were some questions like, is it the Lincoln Project? Is it not the Lincoln Project? We are partners with the Franklin Project. So it is basically two sides of the same coin. And, we're all about, we're all about calling people out, I think, at the Lincoln Project. And the Franklin Project is about calling people in. If you have heard that language used in training, we call you out, and the Franklin Project is going to call you in and teach you how to have civil discourse. We don't feel like being civil as much.
We go back and forth, but do you remember here? I'm going to date myself again. Schoolhouse Rock was a thing on Saturday mornings when I was a kid, and we studied civics in school, and we had that education, and then we also, as kids, we were getting it through Schoolhouse Rock. How the history of the revolution, how a bill is passed, how a law is created, how a bill is introduced and what the process is that it has to go through. And there seems to be, when you see so many of the conversations that happen, especially on social media, the lack of understanding that we have about how our democracy actually works and why it's so important. One of the things that I keep coming back to, thinking about our elections, is that we all have this, and this kind of gets into the midterms. We hear about the huge win that Biden had in the general election, and we look at 7-8 million more votes, but that's not how our elections work. It was really more like 27,000 votes spread out over a number of states that he won by, because running up the score in certain states doesn't get you any more electoral college votes. You get the same number. So people need to understand, as we go into 2022, looking back at how big Biden's win was does not mean that there is a guarantee that Democrats are going to be sweeping House and Senate races across the country next November. It's going to be a cage match. It's going to be really, really tough, especially on the House side. So, we need to understand how this works. We have to have civic engagement on the local and state level, which is what the Franklin Project is really focused on. Because if we don't, electing Biden was the first step, but losing the House back to the Republicans is going to change everything.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes it's exhausting to stay engaged, right? Like when we wrapped up with, I actually was having a conversation with somebody who attributed a lot of the things that are going on in their life right now to a tough election year. And I was like, you weren't running for office, but it was a tough election year for all of us, and incredibly stressful. And so it is natural to want to step away. But what I think we can say is that we truly saw that every single vote truly does matter. And so what we're seeing with all of the voter suppression laws, we're seeing that this active attempt to keep the voting numbers down. And I think what's really cool about the Franklin Project is it will hopefully inform people to the point where they get that not only does it matter to vote, it matters to vote and to understand the issues, and to understand how to talk about the issues and talk about the policy. Because what we're seeing right now is, even when a bill is introduced and even when it's being spoken about, all we're hearing are the talking points of people arguing back and forth, as opposed to somebody being able to take the steps to go in and educate themselves. And so the Franklin Project will be a part of doing that. And so definitely so very important. And we skipped over a question that I do want to talk about. It's about the Republicans. The Lincoln Project originally started as a group of Republicans. Brandy Kaplan, I hope I'm getting that right, said, I know when this group was started, it was a Republicans against Trump group. Now your supporters come from both sides. Are the people who work at Project Lincoln also on both sides? Lisa, what do you think?
Yeah. As I was saying earlier, I've always been on both sides. I've always been an independent. Even when I was working in politics, I was an independent. So yes, definitely we have folks from both sides of the aisle, and it's so important, because what we're all working so hard at the Lincoln Project to build is what Republicans used to call a big tent, but they just seem to kick people out of the tent at this point. But it is a coalition that we need. And this isn't about political affiliation. This is so much bigger than that. This is about our democracy. And the Lincoln Project is a pro-democracy organization. The purpose at this stage in the game, the most important thing that we're going to do is make sure that we save the ability for a country to still function as a democracy when there are forces on the other side that are pushing incredibly hard toward authoritarianism. And, it sounds so melodramatic when you say it, because this is America, right? And we're not supposed to have to worry about, we worry about authoritarian regimes in other places. We don't worry about that happening here. We need to worry about that. This is real. We're so much closer than I hope most of us ever imagined, but we have to imagine it now, because if we don't take the steps that we need to be, if we're not all really engaged, then, we're one election away. Mm-hmm. We came so close, and we know that is what Trump and Trumpism and his minions are still pushing us toward. So yeah, we're a big tent, folks on both sides of the aisle. Maya, I know you certainly.
Yeah, I was like, I dated a Republican once, but he was a race car driver, so it doesn't count. And I was able to write a really good poem about it called Vroom. So I am an issues voter. Yeah. So it's like, if you drive a race car, I am with you. If you don't, then I don't know. But in all seriousness, I think in the podcast with Reed, I mentioned the fact that I was one of the people who, when Bush won a second term, I was like, I am out of here. I am done. And there I am dating myself. I did leave the country. I was somewhere around 2005, 2006. I was like, I'm done. I was like, America doesn't want smart Black women. It doesn't deserve me. I'm out. And now I'm back. And so I do believe in principles of personal responsibility. I would consider myself a fiscal conservative. I like capitalism. I think it is the system that works best for the way humanity works. Like, I'd love for everybody to live on a commune. I have bunnies. I would bring my bunnies there, and it could be like this happy place where we're like, yay, we're all getting along. But no. So I believe I'm a practical person. And so for me, and I can't speak to everybody else in the Lincoln Project, but I know for me, it's about, this is the cool thing about America. There are people from all over the world, so many different backgrounds. And we are like a young country. We're like a toddler country. I call this our terrible twos. That's where we're at right now as far as, and so it's of course it's difficult to get along, because we're still trying to learn how to get along with so many different people with so many different mindsets. And I can't remember what Republican congressperson tweeted something about show me why there's diversity and there's strength in diversity, is what he said. And I was like, well, the whole point of diversity is to be able to problem solve from different mindsets and different perspectives. And that's what can make America strong. So it's understanding that we have all of these different perspectives, and we can come together and we can solve big problems that actually affect humanity. Like Elon Musk. He affects humanity. Got to figure it out. You know what I mean? I'm kidding. I thought he was great on SNL, whatever. But I think
I skipped it.
I mean, he does electric cars. It's what did people want? I can't make an electric car. So who am I going to, am I really going to make fun of him for trying comedy? I don't see myself out here building a tunnel and putting fast trains in it and stuff. So I can't make a flamethrower. So I'm not, and that's the thing. It's as a culture, we're constantly judging each other, judge. And I think for me, it's practical. Let's figure out how to get along. Let's use tools. We have to understand how the brain works. It's crazy to me that we have sex ed, but we don't have brain ed. These are all things that are super important that we're going to talk about on the show, how to be engaged and use what we know about the human brain and human potential so that we can all get along.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, we've already seen happen in business, right? We know that as businesses increase the amount of diversity that they have top to bottom in the organization, not just bringing in women and people of color for entry-level positions, but when top to bottom, management to entry, you have greater diversity, profits go up, productivity goes up, job satisfaction goes up, wages go up. It is to the benefit of everyone to have more diversity, which it's the same thing with our country. We have this, people want to argue, I think a lot of white people want to argue that if the pie is shared with more people of color, that means less for white people. That's not how the economy works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah.
There will be more. We create more. We don't have a finite economy. Yeah. We don't have limited finite resources.
Yeah.
And the country gets stronger, businesses get stronger, people get stronger. Diversity is a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a pie. It's like a layered cake, and we can just keep adding layers to the cake, a layer and layer of the cake, and going for those high level issues that we truly need to solve, not fighting over these lower level issues. And so I hope we answered that question, because we have more questions.
And cake is way better than pie anyway. Anytime you can put frosting on something, it's just inherently better. So build a cake. Don't worry about getting a piece of a pie. We're going to get like so many comments back from the pie fans. And
God. What's better, cake or pie? That should be a poll. Cake
that
or
will be
pie?
A poll. We will do that during one of our shows, and people
cake
can roast us for being wrong. All right. What is next? Oh, I like this one. At Durstein 517 asks, what is better since this administration took over besides vaccine distribution? Well, vaccine distribution is no small thing. So I don't just want to brush it off like, oh yeah. So, we're getting the pandemic under control. More, 570,000 Americans have died. It's a big deal. And it comes down to competence, right? We now have, and that is affecting so many things now that we have a competent, stable administration, a president who does not spend all of his time watching Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, tweeting and, slamming burgers in his face when he's not insulting people. So that piece really does, it really does matter. And the vaccine distribution, it's our step toward normalcy. It's our step toward opening the economy again. It's our step toward not having to constantly listen to people who don't want to believe science whine about having to wear masks and pretending they can't breathe through them. So that piece does matter.
It does. Yeah, when there's chaos, it's very difficult to have things like efficient vaccine distribution. And so while, to me, it was so very important that he came out, that Biden came out and put a directive right off the bat saying that every adult should be eligible by, I think it was originally by May or something like that, should be eligible for the vaccine. And I think providing guidance, having an administration that provides guidance to the states is incredibly important for unifying the country, which is really what we're talking about. And then from a policy perspective, inclusivity is very important to the American experiment. Like if everybody doesn't feel included, and that includes people who voted for Trump, if everybody doesn't feel included and doesn't feel like their voices are heard, that makes it very difficult to move forward as a country. And so I think the Biden administration has created a lot of inclusive language. And while, the LGBTQ community is an important part of my community, I'm a part of the LGBTQ community, and it's really important to me that people feel safe in this country. And that's a part of participating in the process. And so I think, there was a lot of damage done, not just with everything that happened with the Derek Chauvin trial, but also, a lot of things that have been happening, the white supremacy, the far right nationalism, QAnon, like all of these things that were like rising up that were about trying to push people out of the American process to push and that to me, it's like, it's such wasted energy because it's never going to, like, you're not going to make trans people disappear. You're not going to make Black people, like, we're not all like getting on cruise ships and heading back anywhere. Like a lot of us, we're born here. And so I think, this bringing people in is an incredibly important part of laying the foundation of where we can go. Like, we have to have a solid foundation. And, I do watch Fox News and I do watch Tucker Carlson because I need to know. And what I see is just constant fear, divisiveness, and knowing that, like, a large portion of our country is watching that and buying into that, just underscores how absolutely important it is, the work that we do at the Lincoln Project, the work that the Franklin Project is going to do, the work that the Biden administration is doing, to remind people that, like, we have to do this together. Like, there is no other option.
Yeah. And we can't forget what has already been accomplished by the Biden administration just in the American Rescue Plan. There was finally help coming to people who desperately needed it, and that money then started circulating in the economy, and that's going to help our small businesses. That's going to help people be able to rehire folks again because those jobs are being created. And we're talking about policy, which I find to be such an incredible relief. And there are going to be opinions all over the map about whether or not the policies are correct or whether the plans are too big and too ambitious and too expensive. But we're talking about policy and the return to normalcy of that. And I know, we were all kind of I wasn't enjoying it, but I think some people enjoyed the sugar high of the constant drama of having Trump in the White House. But it's not a healthy diet for a country to be on. And for us to be now having a more stable, well-rounded diet where we are, not spiking and crashing all the time the way Trump functions. I'm not sure it's actually sugar that's causing that with him, but I'm not going to go into that tonight. But beyond the domestic stuff, there are also, we're back in the international community again. We have rejoined the Paris Climate Accord. Mm-hmm. We are no longer bending a knee to Vladimir Putin. We're not cozying up to Kim Jong-un. We are taking a hard line with China. There are our friends and allies know what to expect from us again. They know the United States is back. They know we have their backs. And our foes, our adversaries, they know where they stand with us too. And the instability of the Trump administration and whatever his, mood of the moment was, or, who was stroking his ego and who wasn't. And that was what he was going to base his international policy on, foreign policy on, is just madness. So again, not as exciting, but it's really not supposed to be a daily trauma running the country. It's not what we're supposed to be looking for.
Yeah, what's better? My sleep. My sleep is better. Yes. I don't wake up every morning, going like, what terrible thing happened yesterday? So
it's nice not to wake up in the morning and be afraid to look at your phone and see what god-awful thing might have happened in the past 7 or 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And that was a real thing for more than 4 years. So.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a great segue into our next question, which is from I'm going to go with Anita Mimani. Are you all hopeful for the GOP, for America, for the future? Are we hopeful?
You want to take that one, or you want me to?
I was like, no, yes, not for the GOP. We're not hopeful. I think that ship has already sailed and burnt. Yeah. Like it's like a burning ship, like off into the sea. That is
with a lot of rats still trying to decide whether or not they're going to jump.
Yeah, I think the minute obviously they've crossed many lines, but I think the Liz Cheney, I think that for the last reasonable members of the GOP, I think when that happened, I think a lot of people were like, I can't support this anymore. Like she was aligned with him on so many different policy, way more so than Elise Stefanik. Yeah. Yeah.
Not a big fan. Yeah.
But for America, yes. Actually, I am hopeful, but that's partly because I believe I'm aggressively positive. I like to call myself I'm aggressively positive, which means sometimes I am. Sometimes I have to like brainwash myself into believing that everything is going to be okay. And part of the reason that is because you think better when you're feeling hopeful. And I think we can all attest to the fact that like if something bad happens and we feel sad, it's very difficult to work through it. But when we're laughing, we're smiling, all of a sudden we have, clear ideas about how we can, how we can fix the problem. And I think a large part of, to go back to Trump real quick, is that feeling of constant trauma. It's like right now I feel like America is like, Trump's like X, and we're just trying to get better. We've all been traumatized, trying to get hope again, and that takes work. And so hope it should be like an active verb. Like you have to work to be happy, especially right now. And so it's like, yes. Am I hopeful? Of course. But am I complacent? Definitely not. Like I understand the amount of work that has to be done. And that's across the board. And I think it's like an all hands on deck kind of situation where it's like, all right, y'all, we got to decide what kind of country we want to be. Are we going to work together? And if so, how? And if not, then I don't know. What's the alternative? Lisa, I don't know.
Right. No, we have to. And I have a lot of hope for the country because I think overwhelmingly we are a country of good, hardworking people. I think we truly do believe in democracy. I think the GOP has thoroughly lost its way to a degree that I don't think it's ever going to find its way back. And I don't think I don't think they have a desire to find their way back right now, which is the most troubling part of it. If they got rid of Trump, right? He's not there. They did not need to continue to kowtow to him, but they are. And there is no serious recognition at this point that Joe Biden was absolutely, legitimately elected president. We do not have the wrong guy in the White House right now. We still live in a democracy, and we have one of our two major political parties that is unwilling to acknowledge that we have a legitimately elected president, which means they don't believe that we live in a democracy any longer. And they are willing to continue to lie in service of propping up that big lie. I mean, we're still having these wackadoodle court challenges and recounts. There was just either yesterday or today, one of the final court challenges in one of the states was thrown out by the judge. So this stuff is still going on, and they have used it. And you and I have talked about this so much, Maya. They've used the big lie and these ongoing lies as justification for the 47 states across the country that have introduced basically Jim Crow voting bills, trying to roll back the ability for African Americans in this country to cast a ballot. And, what can you possibly find as the basis for rebuilding a party that is starting with wanting to disenfranchise millions and millions of Americans and throw out the ballots from the last election?
Yeah, there's not much to save there. And I think it's important, I'm glad you brought up the big lie, because, as parents, we're both moms. One of the things I say is never lie, because once you tell a lie, you have to tell another lie, and then you have to tell another lie, and you have to tell another lie. And it's like, what lie did I tell? I can't even remember all the lies. And to me, as a stand-up comedian, I look at this from a perspective of like how you create a premise, right? Like when you're trying to create a scenario as a comic, you're on stage and you have to create a reality for your audience. And if they buy into that reality, they will follow you wherever you want to go. And so, but that's comedy and that's fun and that's zany. The problem is when you have somebody like a Trump who uses that same power to create a reality, and then everybody that follows him will follow him no matter what. Like we had, with the QAnon stuff, it was like, oh, he's still going to be president and the actual inauguration is this date. Then that didn't happen. Oh, well, the actual inauguration is actually now this date. And so these constant lies, but because that don't make any sense, but because they were able to create that reality in the beginning and create such a strong premise, a whole us versus them, we tell the truth, we're, truthful, the mainstream media, a bunch of liars. And so they were able to create this very dangerous bubble that many people are living in right now. In a completely different reality, but yet sharing the same space. And so this big lie is one of the things that we will be actively dismantling, and all the little lies that go into building the big lie. Part of our job is to call that out and give everyone a way to be able to talk about that and discuss that. So, but yeah, I want everybody to think about that: words, language, the power to create a reality. That's what we do with words. And so, unfortunately, Trump he was very good at it. These statements that are coming out lately, I don't know about these statements.
They're a little more unhinged. That might have something to do with the potential January 6th commission being formed. I know it passed in the House today. It's got to go to the Senate. It's got to get 10 Republican votes. We'll see. Please let there still be 10 principled Republican senators who want to see the truth about an event where there was an attempt to overthrow our government, and 140. Yes, that lovely tourist visit where apparently the normal reaction to tourists coming is to run screaming and then barricade the doors so they can't come in. So, that was a kind of tourist. Highly believable. Yes, those kind of tourists, like the Visigoths. And so, I don't know. I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I threw you off with the tourist visit because I thought we talked about it before, and it was like such a crazy thing that's how much they're trying to rewrite that. And so it's the idea that there's any principled ones left, like after having seen that, and that's where the gaslighting comes in, right? Like but we've seen the video, we know what happened, we know that there was an insurrection. We know that there was basically a coup attempt. We saw it with our actual eyes. And
we did. And we've seen, now Officer Fanone, who has been doing a number of appearances. He was an officer for those folks who don't know. He was badly beaten, brutalized at the Capitol, the day of the insurrection. He was attempting to protect the people who now refuse to acknowledge what actually happened that day. And worst of all, Kevin McCarthy is refusing to have a conversation with this man who was defending his life, who is seriously injured, who is struggling with PTSD. And Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the decency, this man who, I'm going to get so hot here, this man who is supposed to back the blue, right? This is the party that is supposed to be supporting police officers. And you have the leader in the House, the Republican leader, refusing to have a conversation with a member of the police force that defended his life that day. It is such an incredible disgrace, and that people are not screaming that this is people in his party, other members of Congress, they should be badgering him ceaselessly, telling him what a disgrace it is. I'm going to swear, what a disgrace it is that he will not honor this man with a meeting. It is the most basic minimum that he could possibly do to show the respect and appreciation for what that officer did and all the officers did that day. And McCarthy doesn't have it in him because Trump doesn't want him to do it. And
yeah, it is gross. And it's like the hypocrisy levels are so high, and we really just want people's actions to follow along with what they say. Like, one of my favorite sayings is, your actions are speaking so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. And I would say that this applies here. And I think part of the reason is it's like they all went on this like hiking trip with Trump and they got lost in the woods. And now Trump has the snacks. Like, he's got all of the snacks.
Trump would have the snacks. Yeah.
He has all the snacks. And they're like, if we don't get these snacks, and when I say snacks, I mean money, because he is the fundraiser. It's his name that's raising all these funds. They're like, if we can't get these snacks, we're going to die in these woods. And that's I think they're going to die in the woods. I know I was using a ship metaphor before, but I'm now switching to a camping metaphor. Sorry.
But it's a political death. And to do the right thing for your country, for your constituents, for your family, you should be willing to die a political death. That should be okay. There is nothing so valuable about being a member of Congress that you should be willing to sell out your country. And that's what these seditionist members of Congress did by attempting to not certify the vote, the electoral college vote. And they no longer seem to have any sense that what they are there for is to do what is right for the American people, to do what's right for their constituents, that there is a purpose greater than themselves. That's why you go into public service. That's all gone for the vast majority of Republicans in Congress. There are a couple who still are, have a finger hold, but it's not enough. They don't have influence. The people in the party who have influence, the priority at this point is nothing other than how are they going to get power and retain power. And if that means moving toward authoritarianism and away from democracy, then so be it, as long as they get to hold on to their power. Yeah.
Moral compass lost. That is in the beginning of the hiking trip. They just tossed it to the side. That's how they got lost. I'm running with this metaphor now. I like it.
I like it.
Every camping metaphor.
We're going to come up with some new gear. We're going to end up with we're going to have a Lincoln Project compass.
It's the Lincoln Project moral
way. That's right.
I love it.
I like this. I like this.
I like it a lot.
Gear guy.
Yeah, hope you're
We have
watching.
another idea for you. We'll know you love those.
Yes, we have so much that we want. Let's see. We have this. This is perfect because this leads us into our next question. I think because we're talking about perhaps the GOP just disappearing. Would you? This is a question from X-Ray 29123. I'll throw it up there. Would you consider endorsing third-party candidates in upcoming and future elections? I'm a comedian. I don't know if I can endorse anything. I don't know. Do comedians endorse stuff?
Sure. I don't know that my endorsement is going to sway a whole lot of votes either. And I'm not going to speak on behalf of all of the Lincoln Project and say what the organization is going to do. But I continue to have absolutely no problem, voting for people who are third-party candidates, as long as it's not a close contested election and you are risking the wrong person losing when you vote third party as a protest vote.
Right.
We've learned that lesson. Let's remember the lesson. We really don't need to learn it again.
I disowned a cousin over that. I was like, no, we're not talking right now. Yeah. I'm all like, let's bring America together. Also not talking to my cousin. I can't, I'm upset. I'm still upset. It's been a long 4 years, it's not just the tough election year. It's been a long actual 4 years. So, I think the protest vote, not interested at all. This idea that we can actually have candidates that are aligned with what's practical and what will move the country forward. I think that's what's most important. And that could be a third party, but that could also be the Democratic Party. There is diversity within the parties. And I think that's, right. Well, I don't know about the GOP, but within there's diversity. It's not a monolith. Right. And at the end of the day, supposed to be representing what the people want. That's the whole point of democracy, and which is why the Franklin Project is also so important, because people have to engage in that process so that we can be represented, so that we can be heard and we make our voices heard. And so, yes, I love how we're making everybody go back to school. That's our new thing now. We're like, everybody, you're going back to school.
I do too. I love the concept of the Franklin Project. It gets us back to the idea of the states being laboratories of democracy and bringing things back down to a hyper local level. And we talk a lot about state and federal elections, but the vast majority of laws and regulations that are made that have impact on our daily lives, those are happened at the town and the municipality, and they're hyper local. So getting people really engaged in what's going on in their local politics, school boards, select boards, it really does matter, and it's a great entry point for kids to start seeing how democracy works, how decisions are made, and how your life is affected by your government. So I'm excited that this project is moving forward, and that the Lincoln Project is going to be able to have a partner. And it's it's the more people understand democracy, the more we understand how to be civic engaged. That's a good thing for the country.
Yes, if we make it should be a family thing. It's like how you have board game night and Taco Tuesdays. There should be civic engagement Wednesdays, and we can all get together and find out what's going on in local politics. And what's great is now we can be out and about pretty soon here. Hope y'all are vaccinated. I am vaccinated, and it feels great to be able to get out and about. Yes, yeah, vaccinated. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that. We saw each other. We got to see each other. We posted pictures.
We finally met
in person. It was amazing.
We
did cry. I cried a lot. I was like, oh my God, you're real. She's real.
I know. It's like poking the, like, oh my God. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing to be able to hug my dad again. You know, just so many Americans have, I'm going to choke up. So many Americans have had these moments, and we owe it to each other to get the vaccinations, take care of, it's not just about you. It's about your community. It's about the vulnerable people in your community. There are some people who cannot get vaccines. Right now, there are people who are too young to get vaccines. And there are occasionally breakthrough cases where somebody is going to get sick. We all just need to do our part. It wasn't that freaking complicated with smallpox. You know, we've done this before, folks. It's not like we've never had a national vaccine campaign before, and people, you know, we eradicated smallpox. We got measles under control. We can do this. You have to vaccinate your children to have them go to public schools. It's like we're not creating something completely new that is being imposed to repress the liberty of Americans and control them. It's just such a bunch of horse shit. And, you know, get your damn vaccine. They work. They're safe.
She's fired up about this. Get the vaccine, y'all. Otherwise, Lisa's going to lose her mind. Okay,
I'm gonna
do
be
it.
knocking on your door. Are you vaccinated?
Are you vaccinated?
Yeah. You're worried about carrying a passport? Wait until I come knocking on your door to find out whether or not you've been vaccinated yet. Like, oh my God, the crazy lady about the vaccines is outside.
It's funny. Yeah, it's like the Avon lady. No, it's the Vax lady. Here she is.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Do we? I think we're almost having to wrap up here. I don't know if we have time for one more question, but where can I find you on Twitter? Like, where you're on Twitter, right? Tweeting out stuff.
I am on Twitter at Elsie Senecal, and I know you are at Maya on Stage. Follow Maya.
Yes.
Not only is she super smart, she is incredibly funny and takes on things that she obviously we think very differently, but about the same things, and we kind of end up coming to the same place more often than not. But it's super cool to get that different perspective, and I love being able to host this show with you, Maya. I feel so grateful that this has happened.
I do too. I don't know if you know, but you're my Woman Crush Wednesdays. I posted on Instagram for the first time in a long time, which is also Maya on Stage. Plug, follow me on Instagram. But I did because I was like, doing this with you, you're incredibly informed and engaged in a way that is really motivating for me. Because as somebody who kind of disconnected from the political process for a while and was really just focused on writing jokes and making people laugh and making people happy, I realized that it's important, but I realized there's a whole other side of things. And I feel now more empowered to be able to bring those two things together. And so you've helped me evolve as a person, which is so important to me. And I can't wait till you come out here and hang out again so we can have that brownie, because it was really...
Oh my God.
We're not going to tell you where this brownie is. Should be like a weekend set
Changed
up.
My life.
It changed my life. And so it'll have to be like, we'll have to figure out a way to make that like the prize for something, is like, we're going to tell you where this brownie is. Maybe we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the show is back next week, Wednesday, May 26th. Not at this time that it was before, 6 p.m. No. It's now at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We did the math.
Same for the breakdown, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Definitely hop back in. We've got so much new fun stuff and just important stuff planned. And the Lincoln Project is all of us. And we absolutely need all of you to be engaged in the work that we're doing. It matters. It really does. The country is counting on us. Our kids are counting on us. And
our pets.
Our pets are counting on us. Yes, the bunnies and Fezzik, who you didn't get to meet tonight because I locked him out of the studio because he was harassing me earlier. But it matters to him too. I know it does.
It definitely does.
So subscribe to the Lincoln Project YouTube. Follow both at Project Lincoln and at LPTV, as well as me and Maya on Twitter. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Please sign up you can go to the website and sign up for the newsletter. Don't miss the podcast, which is hosted by Ruth Galen. They're so good, so smart. Yeah, I know you.
I worship the podcast.
I know you do.
I'm obsessed with it. I don't know, because it's so fun. The guests are so interesting. And I feel like every time I listen to it, I'm learning so much more about just how psychology is affecting politics. Like one of those episodes was really great. And it's a really fun listen. And you can listen to it while you're driving or while you're running errands and things like that. So even busy people can listen to the podcast. So yes, also subscribe.
Yep.
Podcast.
Everywhere that podcasts are found, you can find the Lincoln Project podcast. So definitely subscribe to it. Study it like Maya does. It will make you smarter. It makes me smarter. And
that's it.
What are we missing?
That's it. I think we covered everything.
Can we tick the boxes? Yeah.
We ticked all the boxes. I hope y'all put this show on your calendars. Grab your Google calendars or wherever you write stuff down, Post-its, and we'll see you next week. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.